And now let's talk about the fall of a British institution. No, we're not referring to the BBC or the Royals. We're talking about the Metropolitan Police, commonly referred to as the Met. It is responsible for law enforcement in Greater London, but it's unable to police itself. Why do we say this? Because discrimination is baked into it. It is guilty of institutional racism, misogyny and homophobia. It has a bullying culture. Listen to this. One Muslim officer had bacon stuffed in his boots. A Sikh officer had his beard cut. And this was a prank. It was supposed to be funny. But do you know what's not funny? Just how broken and rotten the Met Police is. It suffers from collapsing public trust. And these are not our words. An official report says all of this. It has hit the lifeblood of British policing with one of its worst scandals. Here's a report.
In 2021, Britain witnessed a crime that shook the world. A woman named Sarah Everard was abducted from a London street. She was then raped and murdered. Who was the offender? A Metropolitan police officer. The brutal crime saw massive backlash. It resulted in the Met commissioning a review. The review report has now come out. It does not mince words, and it has rattled the world. It's called the Casey Report because it was conducted by Louise Casey, who is a government official. The 363-page report calls the Met broken and rotten. It says the Met is guilty of institutional racism, misogyny and homophobia, and that it's suffering from collapsing public trust. Remember, only 50% of the public expressed confidence in the force, even before the report came out, with numbers lower amongst black Londoners. The report also details how crimes are callously covered up. Rapists walk free because of police bungles. The Met lets predators flourish. Sometimes criminals are spawned by the force's toxicity. Several officers turned criminals pass vetting and are given a gun. The report also details disturbing stories of sexual assault. 12% of women in the Met have been harassed or attacked at work. 1/3 have experienced sexism. And senior officers got away despite complaints. The Met is a boys' club, and a disproportionately white one at that. It has a bullying culture. The situation is worse for minority ethnic officers. They are more likely to be disciplined. They have to battle discriminatory pranks. A Muslim officer had bacon stuffed into his shoes. A Sikh officer had his beard cut, while another's turban was put in a shoebox. And the racism is brazen towards the public too. The Met conducts more stop-and-search operations than other UK forces. And this is excessive against black people. In one case, a black schoolgirl was strip-searched by 2 officers while on her period. Black people are 7 times more likely to die after police restraint in Britain. Apart from this, the Met is also institutionally corrupt, and its blindness, arrogance, and prejudice are prevalent. It's failing on so many levels that it faces an existential crisis. But what do those in authority have to say about this? The force's commissioner calls it a case of bad apples. He refuses to accept the word institutional. Meanwhile, the London mayor agrees with the report. He plans to chair a new oversight board for the Met. But words only go so far. This is not the first time that such revelations have been made. And it's scary because the Met makes a quarter of policing done in the UK. But this is hardly a London or even a Britain issue. The decades change, as do the countries, new reviews are published and inadequacies are highlighted. But where is the change? It's an understatement to say that the police system is creating something disastrous. It affects their overworked officers, the public they serve, and the trust they squash every time they manipulate their power. This is partly due to structural problems. There are poorly implemented systems of recruitment, training, vetting, promotion, and an unhealthy competition for resources. The force also battles serious failures of culture and leadership. They cherry-pick reforms which barely do any good, because reversing the fall of the police forces needs a radical shift. They need to be re-engineered in a systematic way. It feels cliché to even say this, but if not now, then when, and at what cost?